Tolerance is not indifference. I think it's incompatible with indifference. Indifference makes tolerance impossible. If I believe that all religions are as good as my own in arriving at God and putting us in touch with the real or whatever, I will not tolerate your practice of your religion. I'll be indifferent as to the religion that you practice. And tolerance is likewise incompatible with prizing your practice of some religion different from my own. So interesting to have a Hindu in the neighborhood. Such prizing of diversity makes tolerance impossible. When John Stuart Mill urged that we prize disagreement on the ground that the clash of opinions makes the attainment of truth more likely, he was not urging tolerance of disagreement. And some of what passes then for religious tolerance in the West today seems to me clearly not tolerance, but the prizing of diversity. Even more of it strikes me as sheer indifference. It should be added, however, that few people are indifferent to all religions, and even fewer prize all diversity. The liberal Christian who relishes having a progressive Hindu in the neighborhood is likely to be upset if a right-wing teetotaling evangelical Christian moves in. As being upset by having a right-wing teetotaling evangelical Christian in the neighborhood, but not a progressive Hindu, means that the presence of the evangelical offers him an opportunity to practice tolerance, whereas the presence of that progressive Hindu offers no such opportunity. Well, then, tolerance and intolerance of someone's practice of their religion are alike in that both presuppose that one disapproves of that practice. You don't prize it, you're not indifferent to it, you disapprove of it. And one tolerates their practice of their religion if one disapproves of it, but nonetheless puts up with it. Or more precisely, if one voluntarily puts up with it. If one puts up with the other person's practice of his or her religion only because the law compels one to do so, that's not tolerance, or at best it's legal tolerance. Disapproval varies in intensity, as it does in what it is about the other person's practice of his or her religion that bears the brunt of one's disapproval. Perhaps what annoys me is the mere fact of a seemingly rational adult believing such silly religious nonsense. Or maybe it's the fact that he makes me feel unsure and uneasy about my own religion. Or maybe it's his unwillingness to participate in our nation's wars, so the focus can be different. Tolerance and intolerance likewise vary in intensity, and they do come in many forms. Though I may not advocate your being coerced into not practicing your religion and instead practicing some other, I may shun you, ridicule you, mock you, advocate that you not be treated equally with the rest of us by the state, advocate that you have fewer civil rights than the rest of us, and so forth. So in not advocating that you be coerced, I am, so far forth, putting up with your practice of religion, your religion, but in nonetheless mocking your religion, I'm not putting up with your practice of it. So my practice is a mixture of tolerance and intolerance. Given that I disapprove of your practice of your religion, tolerance becomes a live option for me only if I believe that my own religion and morality permit it. And herein lies one of the greatest obstacles to tolerance. Many religious people down through the ages and yet today believe that their religion obligates them not to tolerate the other. God demands that heresy be stamped out. Allah demands the elimination of the infidel. What made possible the emergence of widespread religious tolerance in the West was, let's face it, a deep theological alteration in the mentality of Western Christians. And what is it that motivates people to go beyond believing that tolerance is permissible to actually tolerating the practice of a religion of which they disapprove? Well, sometimes what motivates them is consequentialist considerations, vivid awareness of the great personal and social evils that flow from intolerance, coupled maybe with the attraction of the personal and social goods that they think tolerance is likely to yield. That was clearly instrumental in the emergence of civic toleration in Western Europe. Well, it's what my next sentence says. It was the appalling bloodiness of the wars of religion in the 17th century that led European Christians to conclude that whatever was to be said for religious intolerance, it came at too high a price.